This is how we start, with love inside our hearts. Give peace and joy, we pray. A day that's full of laughter, happy ever after. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
And good evening, and thank you for joining us Tuesday evening. It's a Tuesday evening. It's time for Change and Better Solutions. We do this each and every Tuesday here on back here in Big Beat, Dallas, Texas. It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. In the Mountain Time Zone, lady. Got another great show lined up for you. And remember, tell a neighbor, tell a friend to join the Change Matters movement. I'm your host, Hendricks.
And I am your host, Colette Williams, and we've got a great show for you this afternoon. And the first thing we're going to get going on is the tornado in Grapevine. I just spoke to someone and the tornado hit and it was totally unexpected, but folks will not leave Dallas because it's that good.
Yeah, it was pretty bad this morning. I was up laying there around 7-ish, and my phone started ringing. Messages from the city. I started getting the text, all this stuff. And actually, some of the bad stuff is only about 4 or 5 miles from me.
Yeah.
Over in Grapevine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just spoke to someone and he's on the north side of Grapevine. And he said it didn't hit him. So everything was there by the freeway, south on the 121 and the food court and that area.
Grapevine Mills Mall food court. Also,
right.
It went all the way over to the other side of the 75, Blue Ridge, which is 40 miles, at least 40 miles.
So, but I didn't hear anything about the airport.
Airport seems to be fine. I haven't seen anything about the airport.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about it.
But I didn't know what was going on until later on today. My son sent me a text. Again, it was just down the street.
Yeah.
But, when I got up, it was really raining hard. I kept getting the messages. Fires were going off, and then it finally stopped, and I did some work in the yard and stuff.
What? Mm-hmm. In the rain?
No, when the rain stopped.
Wow.
Because you know how it is out here. It will rain to beat the band, but then it just stopped.
Stops all of a sudden. Stops on a dime. Yeah. Well, at least that is over. And it's winter. It's going to be winter next week. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. And in California, it is predictably unpredictable. People do not know how to conduct themselves in the rain. They're afraid to drive right. And there was a car on the 10 freeway that flipped forward. So it flipped forward, hit a pole, and turned on its side. So it flipped forward and was standing up on the engine and then flipped over. The driver, of course, was intoxicated. And
where was this?
This was on the 10. Didn't say what part of the 10, but it was I think out in the San Gabriel Valley, that part of the 10. It wasn't LA part of the 10, it was San Gabriel Valley part of the 10. But it was ridiculous anyway, because the idiot was driving drunk. It was he and his dad. The son was drunk, but the dad wasn't. And people stopped all over the place to get them out of the car because the car had turned over. They were waiting for something else to happen. But that's just ridiculous. That's just absolutely ridiculous. So what are you going to say? And there's some other news that I'd like to bring AJ Ali in to talk about with him until our guest gets on. And I expect them any moment now. But I saw that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend got $2 million. He settled with law enforcement and he got $2 million. And it's simply amazing to me that these things continue to occur and the authorities continue to throw money at it instead of fixing the problem. I
Yeah,
just
you know,
don't
the
get
problem
it.
is they've got insurance, for it, but it doesn't come out of their pockets. And until it comes out of their pockets. Speaking of that, Tatiana Jefferson, that cop is on trial and it looks like he might be getting ready to go to jury.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what? There's so many of these things we can't keep up. Just so many. It's hard to keep up with all of them. And then there's so many things that go on, even as these things are going on. Here in LA, the new mayor, Karen Bass, has signed a state of emergency. And she's put the homeless issue on state of emergency, which means she's going to get funding. She's going to get the feds involved to clean up the homeless issue. She has said that there will be 17,000 people who will come off of the street. We shall see.
She said something interesting and I thought was very good. She said, since she declared the state of emergency for that specific problem, it will not be worked in a business as usual manner. So apparently everybody's just trying to deal with it in a business as usual. Yeah. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Yes. So I don't know what you can do about it. Hopefully she can figure something out, but I think that's a very good first step in making it an emergency, getting the funding and dedicating research to finding the issue, finding the resolution. That's what you need. Just trying to figure it out as you're going along it's not going to be too big of a problem, much too big of a problem. And unfortunately, the problem has metastasized across the country. You know, it was bad in LA and of course San Francisco, now San Diego, and look what's going on in Kensington, Pennsylvania. Yeah. We're starting to have some issues here. We're near what's happening in LA. Things are happening here. Up in Denver, they're having issues. It's getting worse. People really need to take a step back and figure out, okay, what do we need to do here? You know, we need to take a step back and say, okay, let's address this problem. Figure out how do we resolve it. It cannot be resolved in a business manner. Yes, and I see AJ Ali says they're going to take a whole community approach. And Kiana, you had something to say. Go ahead, Kiana.
Yeah, hi. So I definitely understand that this is a problem that is blanketing the entire United States. But I'm also looking for solutions to preventing this, because it's great to solve the problem once the problem exists, but how to prevent it, that's something I don't know that there's a whole lot of work being done in order to prevent that. And basically what would happen in order to prevent homelessness is, or not even just homelessness, but poverty, people with jobs still living in poverty, still homeless, couch surfing with jobs, people with jobs that are homeless. So we have an economic failure that that's generations long. And I don't know what the solution is, but it would actually, in terms of what Karen Bass said, not taking a visual approach, we really, at the core of it, nobody wants to hear this, but we're going to actually have to maybe pull the rug from under capitalism entirely, because capitalism inherently does not have a conscience. Therefore, it will have a huge fallout. And some of us might be happy, or we may overlook that since we are seemingly in positions where we have roofs over our heads, and, you know, jobs, or we're somewhat comfortable in our discomfort, but we really have to have a systematic look at this. And I mean a serious national overhaul. And I think that's something that even on the ground floor, us little people needs to absolutely take a look at it, because it affects us before it affects anybody else. So I think that's just kind of something that we basically need to take our lives back, in other words.
And unfortunately, you can't pull the rug out from capitalism, because it's baked into the DNA of this country. On capitalism.
Yeah, capitalism is always first.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we're having Freeway Ricky Ross. That's on later, and I was watching the documentary. I was going to mention opportunity. I was going to ask him about it. One of the guys that was interviewing him said, well, actually, he was interviewing him. Talking about, is this journalist? And I don't see Ricky as a immoral gangster. Didn't see him as an immoral gangster, more as an amoral capitalist or opportunist. He saw an opportunity and started making money, which is basically capitalism at its finest. Just figure out how to make some money, no matter what you have to do.
Right.
Okay, and I'm getting a message. My sound is bad.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do this. Kiana, can you retake host? I can log off and reboot. I hope that doesn't drop the feed.
That will help the YouTube feed, but
Okay, we don't have our guest on yet, so let me do this now before it goes. Go ahead and take over, and I'll be back.
all right.
AJ, you're saying it's going to take a whole community approach, and it absolutely is. And I have been looking at this, I want to say for maybe not quite a decade. Do you remember the guy that started the whole thing with the igloos that was on the west side of the Harbor Freeway? I don't remember his name. His name. You don't remember that?
No, I sure don't.
Okay, there was a guy, and his name is Ted something. But the homeless issue began decades ago. And this guy had an approach that was worthy. He took vacant property, and he decided to put up all of these white igloos. And he put up a boatload of white igloos, and people were able to come into the igloo and live there. And they were able to eliminate the garbage and the trash all over the floor, all over the ground. They were able to do that. And that lasted a while. And these white igloos had one way in, and people were able to go in there and sleep and take care of themselves. Well, they moved it for some reason. Don't know why they moved it. It went away. And now every year, in fact, I have something on my work email right now where they're asking people to come and be a part of the count. Every year, the count is at the same time. And my question is always, why are you still counting? Why are you still counting? You don't need to count. What's that going to do?
Well, it comes down to this.
Comes down to money. Comes down to money.
The LA homelessness issue is big business.
Big business. Big business.
Yeah.
And it not only is it big business, but if they do something about it, those people who are in that big business, they lose money. Their money goes away if they fix it.
That's right.
So they're not really thinking about fixing it. I don't care what Karen Bass says. I don't care what Rick Caruso says. They're not going to fix it. Because just like she declared a state of emergency and she gets federal funding, she wants that federal funding. And so do the people who are calling for the count, who are in the supervisor's office, and they're in that division, homeless division or unhoused division, city council, the unhoused division. So you've got 50 people who are employed. They're not going to send those people someplace else. They're not going to take those people out of their position to fix that. Why would they do that?
Yeah, and that's just the people working for the city,
Yes.
right? So then we've got all these big organizations that are called nonprofits, but they're raking in tons of money. If you go down to Skid Row and see the infrastructure that has been built there over many years, it's a city within a city, and it's massive amounts of money that are flowing. And so if we want a shot at all at ever fixing this, I put in the chat that it's going to take a whole of community approach. It's going to take, I serve on two boards in the Santa Monica area, one Santa Monica College, and the other is West Coast Care. And at the college, there's a massive issue with students that are homeless. There's also a lot of people, as everybody knows, in the beach areas that are homeless, and that's what West Coast Care works on. They actually get people back home. They get out there every single day. They learn their names, they learn their stories, they get them bus fare back home, or they get them set up in town to live and take care of themselves. And when I lived there on Strand Street, right at the beach, we had a group of people in our community that banded together, and we identified a few people that were basically our neighbors, homeless in the park, and we got to know them. And we started to help them with simple things like getting the doctor's appointments and getting to, get their ID replaced after everything got stolen. And little by little, we were able to make a difference in their lives and get them the help that they needed. And oftentimes mental health care was involved in that in a very big way. But, we've got to take this whole of community approach where everybody's got to get trained at some level to be a little more empathetic, a little more caring, and team up, get together with 5 or 6 of your neighbors and team up and identify a person and wrap your arms around that person, literally and figuratively, until that person gets back on their feet. And there was talk about preemptive, preventive. That's the same thing that we've got to do. Is we got to know our neighbors. We got to know when they're in trouble so that we can help them, because we stay silent, they stay silent, and the next thing you know, they're in trouble. We don't know because we don't even talk to them, right? But if we were able to get involved in each other's lives like we were family, as I like to say from my Hawaiian brothers and sisters, ohana, to be responsible for each other as if we were family, we could solve a lot of this overnight without federal emergency dollars, just with opening our hearts, learning about somebody and their issues, opening our hearts to their needs, volunteering to be part of the solution, and empowering others to do the same. That spells out love, LOVE.
Okay. And you know what, AJ? This is simply throwing good money after bad. And they don't want to do that and we know the reasons. And we're no longer a society of humanity. We're not working for humane reasons. We're working because of capitalism.
Absolutely.
It's simply about capitalism. And we've taken humanity away. It's no longer important. Families are no longer important. And we want to talk about mental health care, but we don't care about mental health care. We really don't, because if they did care about mental health care, we wouldn't have the issues that we have. So we're doing what we can on our end, but those so-called people in government, those so-called officials, those people who are pulling the strings, they don't do what is really necessary, because it's all about the money. It's not about people. It's not about people. And until we get it in our heads that we've got to take control, we've got to take control of this, things are going to always be this way. They're going to be this way. And I remember a time when nothing was like this. I remember that. And it's terrible. It's terrible that we've gotten here. Okay. It's really terrible. Okay. So I'm hoping that we can get past this. And I can't imagine what Karen Bass is going to do. Do you think she's able to do it?
I'm hopeful. I respect Karen Bass, and I believe that if anyone can do something about it, she's the kind of leader that can rally people and get them inspired and move them into action. But it cannot be business as usual. We have to involve everyone in this and other issues, because these are interpersonal issues, right? We have to get personal.
Yeah, we really
in order
do.
to solve them. Yeah.
And people have to take a position that they don't care. It is so dirty and so nasty and so much garbage piled up around LA. It's unconscionable. It's unimaginable. It is. I've never seen anything like this in my life. So for people that say they love LA, the best weather, I have to constantly say, you cannot be serious. Now, don't get me wrong. Keep your happy derriere here. Okay. We don't have that in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. And let's not bring in the people crossing the border. It ain't like that anywhere but here. It's not like that in Georgia. Okay. I haven't seen anything like that in Chicago, even though Chicago is a nasty place also. I haven't seen anything like this in Denver. I haven't seen anything like this in Maryland. This is something that's inhumane. It is beyond imagination. It's
pretty prominent in the country or in the states that border Canada. But since those are primarily white and Asian people that kind of come in with people who work on either side of the border, it's never talked about. But it's all through that entire Northwestern region. It's not talked about at all. Visit some of those states as well as some of the borders of Canada, and you'll come to know how prominent it is. It's just the US-Mexico border that's only ever talked about, but absolutely it's happening literally all over this entire continent. People will never stop moving from place to place. Also, Arizona has it. Arizona borders Mexico as well as Texas. So it happens in those two states as well.
We know that things happen, but to the degree that they have taken place here, I just don't see it in any other place. You cannot go into anywhere in Texas, Houston, Studewood, 5th Ward, 3rd Ward, 4th Ward. You'll never see the trash and the garbage and people living in utter filth and third world conditions. Someone came here and said, this looks like a third world country, and it does. And I've been here all year, and I don't even like to walk on the street. I went out with a friend, and he has a theater company downtown. And I was really quite surprised that we were downtown LA. I had to clean the bottom of my shoes because it is that bad. It is that bad. And I'm just going, this is so and people here treat their dogs better. They treat their dogs and their cats better. They're out of their minds about P22. They're losing their mind over P22, a mountain lion. But they're not losing their minds over people who are living on the street. They're not losing their minds over the filth all over Southern California. They're not losing their minds over that. But they don't want to disturb P22. They want to protect him, and they want to make sure that he's okay. Make sure that he's okay, but you're not giving the same kind of consideration to somebody that's on two legs. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong for looking at it that way. But if I'm wrong, okay, clean up the street. That's all I'm saying. Clean up the streets. And one of our board members, Leonard Collins, is on, and he's up in the central part of the state. Leonard, how are things up there? Leonard Collins?
Yeah, I had to get on mute. This thing is acting crazy. Up here, it's not bad in Solvang. However, I was up in the Bay Area. So from Oakland, and it's a place called Antioch. I don't know if many of you are familiar with Pittsburgh or not. but it's 45 minutes east of Oakland. But this is the stats in Oakland. Oakland is 25% Black in the community. So keep this in mind, 25% African American. The Black homeless is 70%. Now, AJ Ali, we don't always necessarily agree because he has such a positive outlook on life. But this is the one time I'm going to have to say, in order to change this homelessness, it is going to take love. But I have this little saying that I use: hate never sleeps and love sleeps too long. But the thing that Kiana said, this is something that's about to happen in the coming years. And I don't know if you've listened to some of the historians, but when I was really involved in Pasadena, they said Pasadena is the future in terms of demographics and homelessness. So as Yolanda speaks about California, this is where it's starting, and that's only because of the weather. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, what percent, and I'm talking about everybody in the United States, and I'll ask everybody's opinion, and then we'll kind of get a status. What percent of the American population is 90 days from homelessness? I say, me personally, 80%. Kenny, what do you say? Kenny?
Yeah. I think, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think about 80+%. You know, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. And especially in places, excuse me, like California, where the cost of living is so outrageous. But I also think that, you know, people need to make a conscious decision to do something about that as well. You know, for example, I just looked at Costco gas today. High grade gas at Costco here in the Dallas area, each one by my house, $2.99. You know, and I know it's over $2.99. High grade gas.
We'd love that.
Yeah, I know. And I think part of the issue is that as long as people put up with it, will continue. So as long as people pay, you know, $1 million for a 900 square foot fixer upper, people are going to sell it for that. And that's going to continue. And people have to make a conscious decision that we're not taking this anymore. We're just not going to do it. That's why you see big traditional places like California, where people just cannot, you know, if people are living in Silicon Valley, making $150,000 a year, living in their vans and living in their cars because they can't afford, you know. And so the alternatives there is, and I'm just using just in general, move to Iowa, make $70,000 a year and live well. There are alternatives. So again, part of the problem is that people decide, again, I love the weather. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay in California. I know I can't afford it. And there is another statistic that says, I think it's 75% of the people living in California can't afford to live there. Right. You know, and I understand wanting to be around family and roots and all those sorts of things. But when you continue to buy into the system and continue to put money into the system continues. And it will continue until there has to be some massive change where things have to basically crash like they did in 2008, if not worse. And we can start seeing some changes. But as long as people pay those prices, you know, if you've got, you know, a 1,200 square foot house and you can get $1 million for it, why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
So there are some alternatives.
Right.
And I
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I missed much of the conversation trying to get back up. Go ahead.
The question I asked, but you answered it. Teaser, if I were to ask you what percent of the American population do you feel is 90 days from homelessness, what would your opinion be?
You know, I agree with you, brother. I would say maybe 80%, because and I was just listening. I've been in and out of the conversation too, but from what Colette said, I remember, well, my prior career was at AT&T, and at one time I was a technician and worked Skid Row. And like Colette was saying, I can remember, I thought it was bad. I used to take my children there around Christmas to see the people on the street and the homeless, cardboard boxes, etc. And like Colette was saying, man, it's like your shoes would stick to the pavement. Now, I retired about 21 years ago now from AT&T. But, after that, I was kind of removed from it. I got into management, and that's another whole topic as far as politics too. But I can imagine what it's like now, because now I see it in my neighborhood, the homeless. I mean, just right down the street from me. It's like, man, it is so close. And even more so, like Kenny was saying too, and I'm kind of piggybacking on that, people are literally living paycheck to paycheck. And note that Colette said too, it's like a third world country as opposed to when I moved to California from Texas, as a matter of fact. In Texas, that wasn't tolerated. I mean, the things on the street, as far as the gay insignias, that wasn't the California that I moved to like 50 years ago. But,
right. Pat, if you're on the show, you next, and then Kiana, you tell me what you think. I'm not sure if Pat's on the show, but what percent do you think it is, Pat?
I really think it's higher. I think it's about 85%.
Mm-hmm.
I have property on 94th off of Western. And when I left 2 years ago, it was horrible. Manchester and Western was a dumping ground. Coming from the airport heading east is terrible. It is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I can't help to think back in 2015, I went to Australia and New Zealand, and I never saw any homelessness, nor did I see any graffiti. And we saw a homeless man in New Zealand, and we became alarmed. We went into this cafe, and they told us, oh, that's Joe. He's one of our neighbors. He doesn't have a home, but we all feed and take care of our homeless people here. Mm-hmm. And so I never saw anything like I see in California. Even in Texas, I don't see anything like this. California, I really believe, took some money from a lot of other states, and they said, bring them here, we'll take them. Because there's just too many people all over California that are homeless. I rest my mic.
It's insane. You guys see what I have up on the screen?
Yeah, 43% of the voters.
That's people that actually say that. But I believe that number's higher. If you and this is people that they say they can, I think the number's higher. But look in the upper left-hand corner under where it says make it. You see that? Anybody see that? 31-year-old man. Oops. Makes $15,000 a month as a voiceover artist and lives in a school. $15,000 a month and lives in a school. You have to ask, what's wrong with that picture?
The very first one that I sent to you, that'll take you directly in.
So it's an issue. Excuse me, it's a major issue, and I hope Karen Bass can do something about it. One of the problems you run into politics is your opposition. And you may have the greatest ideas in the world, but you can't get people on the other side of the aisle to work with. Many times people on the same side of the aisle.
Right.
You can't get anything done. We all know about bureaucracy. And like I was saying earlier about, this country is not about humanity anymore. Frankly, this country was never about humanity. This country, when they wrote the Constitution and said, all men are created equal, they left some key words out. That should have said, all wealthy white men who own property are created equal. Women were not equal. Minorities were not equal. And poor white people were not equal. Because remember, in the beginning, you could not vote if you didn't own property. And there are people today who say we need to go back to that. So absolute humanity has never been really in the DNA of this nation. Which is why, as we are, so some people say, the wealthiest nation on the planet, but we probably have more of these issues than anybody else, comparatively speaking, and relatively speaking. We have, 15 or 25% of the world's incarceration?
Yeah, I think it's
something like.
Yeah, I know we have the largest continents between Russia and China, and I think they mentioned either Europe combined. We have more people incarcerated than those three continents.
Mm-hmm. And people right now are fighting for things. The railroad workers don't get paid time off. They don't get sick leave. So there's a lot of things you just take for granted that people just don't get. And of course, in the hospitality industry, a lot of people get sick time off. So people are still struggling.
Yeah. Kiana, what's your opinion? Because I kind of want to get a sense.
Sure. So it seems to me like perhaps maybe 75 to 78% of the United States may be knocking on the houseless door. And I drop it down from 80 since we've had a large influx in the past decade or so of foreign money coming in. A lot of foreign money. And so I don't know what the number is actually, but as you guys are saying, or as Kenny just said, when people reject being here in California and other places that are obscenely overpriced, they're overpriced for people considered to be well off. Until then, it's just going to continue that way. And absolutely, it's going to continue that way. That's what I was talking about with people taking their lives back, rejecting capitalism when it's failing you. I mean, the system is not designed for you to win in the first place. Right. But that's part of taking your life back. That's deciding that you cannot participate in this parasitic environment anymore. So, and it's parasitic in more than just one way. It's not just capitalism is sort of the umbrella or, the skin of the parasite, if you will. But then there are also the organs of the parasite. In other words, there are other arms that support the parasite itself, that support that capitalist, I guess you could, the umbrella of capitalism. Other things support it big time. So something that I know a lot of people are doing, people that I know have been for a long time, including myself, growing their own food in preparation for this entire total back out. Because it's a system that feeds off of you. It needs to put failure in front of you so that you can stay on that hamster wheel at top speed and burn yourself out before you're, at your job. So it's a system that is built for their gain at your demise. If everyone was meant to win, we'd all be winning and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But that's not the way it was set up. So the more people kind of decondition themselves or uncondition or whatever the word is, kind of decolonize your mind. It's part of that whole framework. Once people really understand that that's necessary and you can no longer literally afford to be comfortable in your discomfort, it has to be uncomfortable enough for people to really snap out of it and turn against the whole system.
Absolutely.
People don't want to snap out of it. They don't want to snap out of it.
We've got Freeway Ricky on. And so I want to just go ahead and jump in since we got about another 20 minutes. And let's see, you're on mute. I'm going to ask you to mute.
Rick, can you unmute?
Brother Rick, can you hear us?
He's got to put on his earbuds. Okay, there you go. Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay. We're going to get him another time in January. He'll be back for the whole hour.
Welcome to the show. Glad you got in.
Welcome to the show, Ricky Ross.
How you doing?
We're good. How about yourself?
I'm good. A little chilly out here on the West Coast.
Good. Oh, come on. West Coast chilly. And actually, I saw AJ's got a sweatshirt on as well. So what is it, 55?
It's probably about 50, maybe 45.
Okay.
It's been in the 40s. It's been in the 40s, the low 40s, not even the fun kind.
Yeah, it's been in the 40s. It's cold. I don't care what you say, Ricky Ross, it's cold.
Yeah, it is cold. I just left Minnesota and Omaha, Nebraska this weekend. Ooh. And this is the same kind of cold almost that it was there. Except there was snow on the ground there, but it's still pretty chilly.
Yeah, and LA does get cold at night, I will admit that.
Yeah, we by the water right now too. So.
Yeah. So anyway,
absolutely.
Good to have you on, Brother Rick. Good to have you on. We're really excited to have you and talk to you about what you've been doing and all the things that you've done. And so let's get this thing started, Colette.
Okay, well, we have a few minutes with Rick, and we're going to dig deep. We're going to dig right in. And I met Ricky Ross 40 years ago. We were talking about it. I think it's been about 30, 40 years, right, Rick?
Has it? I don't know.
It's been back. It was back in the 80s, early 90s when we met, when you had the building on Figueroa, and we were doing your printing.
Oh, that was longer than that. That was the early 80s. That was when I had the motel.
Yes, you had the motel.
That was more like 84.
Yeah, exactly. 84, 85, 86. Yeah. And we were doing your printing.
Yes, that was a real long time ago. I can't remember back that far.
I can't either.
Like I say, Ricky, I don't remember what happened to dinner.
Yeah. I can't remember yesterday.
Right.
Well, help me out with yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, things have changed. You have a story that everybody has been waiting to hear. And we want to talk about your story. I am so thoroughly impressed with it. Kenny Hendricks has looked at some of the videos that have been sent out. Leonard has looked at them. AJ has looked at them. I think everybody has looked at them. You've been interviewed several hundreds of times. Everybody wants to
maybe thousands.
Thousands. Yeah. Everybody wants to hear from what I refuse to say, Freeway Ricky Ross. You're Ricky Ross to me.
Yeah.
So we want to hear your story. There are tons of people out there listening to your story. And it's a story of what went on in the community. It's a story of every element that you can think of. So as much as you can in the next 15 minutes, even though you owe me a complete hour next time, tell us about Ricky Ross.
Wow. I don't know where to start.
We'll start back in 84.
Right now I'm on the tennis court with my babies.
Good place to be.
Having the time of my life. This is one of my favorite places in the world. It's kind of like my sanctuary. We're on the tennis courts. I really enjoy being here. You know, this is where I really want to be, you know, with my life. But, my life, I've been through quite a bit, started selling drugs. Well, before I started selling drugs, I was a tennis player, was hoping to become a tennis pro one day. But not being able to read and write, derailed those dreams and aspirations. So after high school, I found myself on the block, hanging out with guys that I went to junior high school with and elementary school with, who these guys had a lot of them have become gang members and petty drug dealers and petty car thieves and, robbers, you name it, pimps.
And you've seen it all. You've seen it all. And it's a challenge I think it's a challenge to come away from there. And I can only imagine how you feel. As you said, you love being there with your daughters. You love being there playing tennis. And that's where you're supposed to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a place where, you know, you can let loose and be yourself and you know, be all that you can be, you know. And
you know what? I watched a documentary, Rick, and where you mentioned a part about loving to play tennis. You were playing tennis and you were very, very good at it. And somebody came to you and said, you don't need to be doing that. They said that's a sissy thing or that's square. And you said, and basically they pulled you off the tennis court, got you into the streets, you know. And
absolutely. But so many of our young Black men are being pulled to the streets, you know, for so many different reasons. You know, there's a lot of reasons that we're being pulled to the streets. But the magnetism of the streets is so great because, you know, the streets don't have a ceiling. You know, it doesn't judge you.
Yeah.
It doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care what your background, you know, who your mom or your dad was or is. You know, you can literally start with nothing and you know, and do like I did. You know, I started with $125 and, you know, before I got arrested, I had days out.
Uh-oh, we lost your sound. We lost your sound. Okay, say that again, Rick.
Well, you know, this is the hotline to the world. So
yeah. Okay.
They feel like if I don't answer this phone, the world is gonna come to an end.
Yeah. So you started out with $125 in your pocket and then
well, I didn't have $125. We went out and stole a car to get the first $125.
Okay.
So we went and stole $125 and then we took that and we parlayed that into days where we made as much as $3 million.
In a day?
In one day, yeah, one day.
You know,
so, and those are the things, and I'll let you take over, Kenny. And those are the things that are so enticing to young people because they think they can do like Ricky Ross did. And I don't remember the guys who had the other hotel on Century right as you exit the freeway. I can't remember the twins' names, but I remember when they were arrested and everybody in LA that knew them were crying. And I don't know if you remember who they are, but people,
I know them.
Okay. So people were crying because they were arrested. And I remember all of the things that happened when people were arrested. And I will not ever forget people crying and how they felt about it, because there were people who said, this is the only way we can make it. This is the only way we can make it, because they didn't see another way.
And that's unfortunate that in our community,
exactly.
Because, you know, we look at the images on television and we don't
well,
see anything.
and our community has to take some of the responsibility.
Exactly. Yes.
That we haven't pooled our resources together to allow our young people to have a place to come and get the resources that they may need to start their own business. You know, some people can't work for nobody else. You know, they need to be an entrepreneur. And I feel that I was one of those people who needed to be an entrepreneur, but there was no resources. You know, where do a guy go who won't steal from you, who won't lie to you, who won't cheat you? Where do they go if they're Black to get started in business?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of, but and talking specifically about that, the things, the resources that we don't have in our community, and then all of a sudden, in your case and in many cases, all of a sudden there is just opportunity. You know, this opportunity, this crack opportunity came. And of course, we got the CIA pumping more money.
Even more than an opportunity, it became a resource.
Yeah, exactly.
It became something that we didn't have.
Right, and that's exactly what I mean. And in some sense, you know, do you see yourself as a victim of this whole thing, of drug war, and the CIA, and all that? Again, it was an opportunity and a resource, and you had no choice. didn't have a lot of choices.
When you look at the drug game, any human being that's involved is really a victim of the game, because it sucks everybody in. I mean, even with the agents, the police who are supposed to police the activity, most of the time they become victims of it as well. They start to do things like steal, lie on paperwork,
right?
So many things that are not so supposed to be becoming of an officer of the court. But with the dope game, all of those things went out the window.
Yeah, and because it was so deep. It was so deep. People could get in and not get out. There was no way for them to get out. And the only way for them to get out was to go to prison. That was the only way.
Not really. I mean, you could get out, you got to be a strong person.
Yes.
But there's been people that
you have to have people telling you that you can do something.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying you're right. It most people don't get out, but I'm saying you can get out.
And we've only got about 10 minutes, and I want to ask this question because I don't want to just focus on everything that was back then. I want to focus a little bit on what you're doing today. And I went to your website, and you've got a music competition. You've got something about financial consultants on your website. So you got something called After the Snow. Your wife has written a book. You've got your autobiography, and then you've got the Ross TV network. Tell us a little bit about all those things that you're doing.
Well, basically what I do is I found out that most of my life I've been a copycat. Even though people say don't copy anybody, what I learned is to make sure you copying the right cat, because you're going to be learning from somebody. Everything that we do, we've learned from somebody. So basically what I do is I'm just copying the right cats now. I used to copy the guys who stole cars. I used to copy the guys who sold drugs. When I played tennis, I copied the good tennis players. Mm-hmm. So now I'm copying the people who are making all the money out here, who are able to take care of their people and take care of their communities. So I started these different properties, internet properties and different businesses, so that I could continue to help my people grow.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I did not expect things like that. And the music competition, giving prizes for first, second, and third place for the people. Yeah. And one of the things I like about it, because I'm a musician as well, I saw you had a flying V, holding a flying V guitar on your website, but you said no sampling. Even the original music. Thank you for that. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
It's got to be original.
Well, we don't want to let somebody win the prize who didn't create their own work. We got too many people out here stealing other people's.
That's what I call it. They call it sampling. I call it stealing.
Yeah. So we want it to be original work.
Absolutely. And we've got a question over here with Kiana Williams. Kiana.
Hello. Hi.
What up, Kiana?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for being on. Just a quick question. I don't know how much you know about the current fentanyl crisis. My question to you is, well, let me say this first. I got some information from a Panamanian publication a few months ago, and this was a Panamanian Costa Rica publication, and they stated out loud that those two countries are sending drugs to the United States. They've made deals with the United States intelligence, and they're sending them. Like, it was literally it was said. You couldn't even misinterpret those words. I don't know how much you know about the fentanyl crisis right now, but if you do, or whatever it is that you do know, do you see any copying going on, in other words, with the fentanyl crisis right now? Because it's hitting hard, but it's hitting schools hard. And I can't figure, like, why is it going to junior high schools? And here in Pasadena, we had some junior high school kids. Some of them didn't make it. Some of them were hospitalized from fentanyl. And these are children. These are babies, probably not even in double digits yet, that are getting a hold of this stuff. and not waking up from it. Some of them are in double digits. Do you see any similarities? In my mind, it's exactly the same thing. But I'm wondering, why does this keep happening? And why would the United States, per your background and doing the research that you did, what is it with the United States making these drug deals and knocking off kids? Like, where's the bloodlust?
Well, the difference, as a matter of fact, me and one of my friends was talking about that today. The difference with crack cocaine and fentanyl is that people weren't dying like they're dying now. We just had a friend that died yesterday, a fentanyl overdose. So I'm very familiar with it. But that fentanyl is just a different animal, It's one that if you get the wrong dose, your life could end that same day. And when we were dealing, we weren't killing our customers, for somebody to be killing their customers, to me is retarded.
I hear that.
And they say that people have a choice. So they have a choice to take it or not to take it. And when you're talking about kids taking fentanyl, kids have a choice, but don't, because they're kids and they're not old enough to have those skills. We don't teach them because we're in a time when they can raise themselves, basically. They can raise themselves. They're old enough to make a decision on their own, and they are not. So the middle school kids, elementary school kids, in fact, the school that I went to for junior high school, we saw a barrage of emergency vehicles over there, and it was to rescue some of the kids who had taken fentanyl. So I had to tell my daughter not to allow my granddaughter to have any candy from anybody. I don't care who it is. She says, well, sometimes the teachers will bring in candy. No, I don't care who it is. No, they don't need any candy at school because they don't know. They don't know. They don't know. So don't take it.
One thing I thought was funny, Rick, was that, of course, your nickname is Freeway. And I assumed that was because of, LA's one big freeway running freeway selling drugs. That's not the case, is it?
No. Well, I got my name from a guy, a guy named Jay Clayton back when I first got back into the streets. He gave me the name Freeway, and it just kind of stuck. I stayed, we lived on the side of the freeway, so it's a long story.
They said there was a fat Rick and a skinny Rick, and
yeah. You must have read my book.
No, I did some homework.
But the other way they're getting the kids with the fentanyl is that a lot of the pills that the rappers rap about are starting to be laced with fentanyl. They can use bootleg pills and just lace them with fentanyl. So we really gotta wake our kids up, to all of these pills, that they're all heroin and that they're all very addictive. And who wants to be a slave, to a drug?
Nobody.
And you mentioned something in the documentary that the imposter Rick Ross that took your name was actually, you said, was actually rapping about selling drugs and stuff like that, and had never done it.
Absolutely. I don't believe that he's ever. I mean, a lot of the rappers who rap about selling drugs never sold drugs. But the damage that they're doing.
Exactly.
I know society don't think that it's damaging, but when they go talking about Molly's and Percocets and all those different type of drugs, well, the kids want to experience it because those are the guys that they look up to, and they look up to that lifestyle, and they believe that if they take those pills, that they'll be experiencing that same type of lifestyle.
No, and society knows what it's doing. They just allow it to happen, and they push it. They push this negative rap and all this stuff on our kids every day. And those people that took over the music industry, the record industry back in the 80s, and had to do this negative stuff. And I argue that a lot of what that negative rap has done a lot more damage than even back in the 80s. Minds have been poisoned. so badly.
Well, and you know that's worse than in a lot of ways, like you said, worse than selling drugs, because if you poison the mind,
yeah,
you know, once you get the mind, then everything else falls with it.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Everything else falls right with it. And that's why it's subliminal mind control. It is subliminal mind control. And unfortunately, people don't recognize that, because once you get them, you got them.
yeah.
And unfortunately, that's it. I know that Leonard Collins has some questions he wants for you. We're right at the 6 o'clock hour. Leonard Collins.
Yeah, you know, I have to find if I'm gonna take your stripes or not. So which golden bird did you go to?
I've been to the original Golden Bird that used to be over on what was
Adams
that?
and Brighton?
Yep. I used to go there. We used to stay right there on Cordova and Normandy. So that was the Golden Bird we used to go to. But I used to go to all of them. I used to love Golden Birds.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked that question. Otherwise,
how did you know? How did you know I knew? How did you know I love Golden Bird?
Well, who didn't? You know we had all of LA.
Because you're black and in LA.
Yes, black in LA, right.
Yeah, I managed the one that you talked about, Adams, and then I went over to Compton, right across the street from Centennial High School.
Yep.
So I ran that one, and you know we had Century, we had Vermont, Avalon, La Cienega.
Yep.
So during that time, so I'll let you have your stripes. You did live here. Okay, I can give you that.
So you started Golden Bird?
No. I worked for the family.
Okay,
Mr.
yeah.
Stennis, Willie J. Stennis.
Yeah.
And his sons, Billy.
Yes.
Well,
Kevin,
I met the sons when they had the vegan restaurant. I forgot which one that was. That had the vegan restaurant over on Pico.
Right.
Because I wanted to buy Golden Bird at one time.
That was another question I was going to ask you. I can't believe you didn't invest in them, because in terms of a legit business, Golden Bird was the only business, black-owned business, that had all of LA wrapped up. You know, we were in the jungle too, Santa Rosalia.
Yeah.
Over there by the Forum. Back then it was the Forum. Manchester.
Western Forum.
So he had 9 units, you know, thinking if everything would have went right, he should have been nationwide. That was the best chicken in the world.
Yeah, his recipe was great. I don't know. I used to love Golden Bird. I could only imagine if I could take that recipe and turn it vegan now.
Are you vegan?
I'm vegan 32 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I had to practice mind control. You know, you want to be in control, because if you can't control yourself, you can't control anything else. And one of the most important things to control is that stomach.
Yeah.
And we are at the top of the hour, but I wanted you to give a chance to get out your website. Do you have any social media handles or anything like that? We'll get in touch with you.
Well, we're going to do it again. I'm going to give her an hour next time.
You're going to give me an hour, Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an hour. But you know, I'm going to give you an hour. You know, my time is so valuable right now. You know, they be paying me well. Hey, they pay me well for an hour.
That's
when
why
people start finding out how much, when they start finding out how much I get an hour, they might start looking at me sideways and say, why you charge so much? But I ain't getting as much as these rappers. You know, they get $700,000 in one night. You know?
Maybe I should start rapping.
To lie. Hey, to tell lies.
To lie and sell out your people.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, Rick, there's so much more that we want to talk about. We want to talk about what you're doing now, your books, your docuseries. There's a lot that we want to talk about.
I'm doing so much. I'm doing so much right now. My new financial stuff that I'm working on right now. Crazy. That's all I could say right now. I can't sleep at night. I can't believe that I figured this stuff out. It's gonna make the drug business look like peanuts.
Wow.
Once, and I'm gonna put it on the internet too. I'm gonna let everybody know about. Once I prove it all the way. I plan on putting it on the internet. I just hope blacks start to listen. You know, they say if you put something in a book and you want to hide it from a black, put it in a book. You know,
that's right.
I wrote 2 books for them, you know, to show them my principles and to give them the principles to be successful. And the book's been doing pretty good. But
is the book available on Amazon?
Don't go to Amazon. Jeff Bezos don't want your money.
Oh,
I got my
say
own
it, huh?
website. I got my own website. They
Yeah,
can go to freewayrickyross.com.
absolutely.
And on top of that, if they got merchandise that they want to sell, they can also sell that on my website. I
Yeah.
allow people to sell their merchandise on my website as well.
Oh, really?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so
You
that
know,
sounds
I
like
told you I'm a copycat.
okay. That sounds like we need to be do something together. We need to be somewhere doing something together. We're media. You're all of these things. We need to be doing something together.
All right, look, we'll set some up.
We have one of our hosts. He just joined. His name is Andre Blassingame. He's one of the hosts on the show on the network. He wants to know if the movie Snowfall was based on your life.
It is. They stole my story.
Wow.
Really?
They did.
I have a strong feeling.
They
Really?
did. Me and John Singleton was working together, and he disappeared on me. And next thing I know, they were working on Snowfall. But that's okay. I had a meeting today about the movie. You know, the finances, everything. They locking everything in on the movie. So the Freeway Ricky Ross movie will be coming soon, and they also started talking about the TV series.
So
Well,
Rick.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes. So Rick. So were you working with John Singleton prior? Or it had to be prior to his demise. Were you working with him at that time?
When I first come home from prison, me and him were discussing and coming up with ideas for the movie, for my movie.
And the next time, Rick,
and it was our hope that he would be the director.
Okay. And the next time we're on, I want to ask you about, and I think his name is Chris Webb, the journalist that
Gary
wrote
Webb.
this. What was his name?
Webb.
Gary Webb, yeah, Gary Webb. And I remember watching a movie about him a few years back.
Jordan, you got to take that over there. Go help with Bryson.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about that next time.
Go help with Bryson.
And Rick, it's dark. I'm not sure what part of LA you are in, but I don't want your kids out there by themselves.
No, they okay. It's a bunch of kids out here. And, they good though. The tennis coach is with them. Oh, they got a private coach. I can't teach my kids. They don't listen to me.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I got.
So I had to pay the coach and then tell him what to tell him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is something about kids. It's something about kids. But Rick, we have to bring you back.
All right, we'll do that. And listen, when you come back, let me tell you one of the things that I would like for you to do. Because I know you guys didn't read the Esquire magazine 80th anniversary. No. The one with Obama on the cover. They gave Obama my cover, but you know, I could share the cover with Obama and
why
Dr.
not?
Dre.
Why not? Why not?
But and it's the 80th anniversary. My story is a featured story in the magazine. Esquire magazine, and also there's another one, LA magazine. You definitely need to read those two articles so that you can really dig down. Those two articles probably dug deeper than most people were able to dig down. One of the guy who did the LA magazine article, he wrote that article when I was in prison with a life sentence. He came and visited me.
Okay.
And me and him talked, and he did an article about what we talked about.
Really?
So, yes, very, very interesting article. It's my favorite, probably.
Well, wait a minute. Which Esquire and which LA magazine? Current?
Esquire magazine 80th anniversary.
80th anniversary. So that's got to be current.
No, it's about 4 years old now.
Oh, 4 years old. Okay, we'll look for it.
Yeah,
okay,
you can get anything off the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look for it.
And LA magazine came out in 2013. The story is called Rick Ross's Dreaming.
Okay, Rick Ross is Dreaming. Okay, we're gonna look those up. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is right there, Obama. Okay. Obama got my cover.
Okay. We're gonna put you on a cover. That's okay, Rick. We will put you on the cover, honey.
I was supposed to be on the cover. I was supposed to be on that cover. And they put Obama on there. They say, he came to me, they say, man, they sent the editor saying he don't want to put you on the cover now. He wants to put Obama on the cover. And I was like,
Well, if you have to give up the cover to somebody, it's better
I
to
said
be.
I.
Yeah,
I said I.
It's better to be to Obama.
Yes, I said okay.
Yeah. At least it was Obama.
But they
gave me
the magazine.
See.
I got 13 pages. Obama only got 2.5.
Really?
So, yeah. Clinton only got 1.5.
Okay.
And Dr. Dre only got like 1/4 of a page.
Really?
So yeah.
Well, you got 13 pages.
Exactly.
Hey, can't complain.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So read those articles, and then next time we do the interview, give us a lot more to talk about.
Absolutely. And it's going to be January. It's going to be January. So don't go anywhere.
I don't know. January a busy month for me. You know, I got a couple of boxers that'll be fighting in January. My birthday is in January. January's a busy time.
There are 31 days in January. We'll talk to you.
All right. We are way over time. So yeah, thank you so much, Rick.
Okay, Rick, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you real soon. Okay, this has been an interesting conversation with Rick Ross, and I will say it even though I don't want to, Freeway, Ricky Ross. So thank you for joining us, folks. It's been interesting. It's been another great show right here on itrnradio.com. Thank you for joining us. It is the holidays. It's Christmas time. And tomorrow we've got another great show. We've got Pam Uderick from Chocolate Secrets in Dallas. You don't want to miss it. So come on back right here on itrnradio.com. Thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas to everyone. Take care. Have a good evening. It's Christmas.